All right, everybody, we are back here in the first session and live demo of the day. Again, same hosts, Nick and Rob, but joining us for this very exciting session is Yasser El-Hagan, Head of Solutions Architecture over on the Amazon Connect team. So Yasser, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Yasser, the one, the only. I'm so glad we got you.
Yeah, I think we'll get to what we're alluding at in a moment there with some of the ways that we've seen some of Yasser's work before, but let's sort of take you to task here. So we're talking contact lens for Amazon Connect. A little bit of a mouthful on that launch title, but I think that the meaning and the value lives up to a long launch name. I know people like to rip on us sometimes for some of these names and titles. So let's start very broad, right? What is contact lens for Amazon Connect?
Yeah, so Contact Lens is a new set of analytics capabilities powered by machine learning that integrate directly within the Amazon Connect product to give you things like key phrase detection, transcription, insights out of those transcriptions, and some really meaningful speech analytics capabilities directly within Amazon Connect.
You know, I feel like people always mention, like, Nick, you like talking about machine learning. You have another machine learning launch later in the session, and we baited everyone, right? We said, like, the first one would not be machine learning, but there you go, right there in the title. We've weaseled AI and machine learning in here. I'm very excited. My ears perked up as soon as I heard that. But yeah, so we spoke about a lot. There's, you mentioned a lot. There's lots of really exciting features that, I'll ask you about in just a moment. But we have to do a little bit of stage setting. We have Contact Lens and we have Amazon Connect. Connect's clearly having been around for quite some time now. Let's start with the motivation. Why was Contact Lens launched?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Sorry, before we do that, can we just take a quick 30-second detour and explain what Amazon Connect is for those in the audience who aren't familiar?
Sure. So Amazon Connect is our easy-to-use omnichannel cloud-based contact center service that scales to support businesses any size. It was pretty much created almost 13 years ago for Amazon.com as they were looking to kind of recreate their customer experiences within their contact centers. Nothing they found out there really kind of fit their needs or scalability or security, so they decided to build it themselves. Fast forward, and we recently launched Amazon Connect a little bit over 3 years ago to pretty much bring the same capability and the same power that Amazon.com uses for their contact centers to our customers.
Now, what does it mean for a contact center to be omni-channel?
Yeah, so Amazon Connect brings together a lot of different things that folks are used to in the contact center space. So we have things like skills-based routing. We do things like voice and chat recording, real-time and historical analytics, all in an omnichannel way, meaning that as a customer engages with you, let's say on a chat channel, and maybe they want to escalate to voice, all that context can be transferred automatically between channels so that an agent can kind of see that context as a customer engages with a business across different channels.
Yeah, so some important context that I feel like we had, but were worth reiterating for everyone, bringing up for everyone in the audience. So I'm gonna restamp my question here. So given all of this, why did we build Contact Lens?
Yeah, so when we launched Amazon Connect, it had a certain level of AI capability directly within the product. And what we noticed is that while we had lots of other services, like for example, Amazon Transcribe and Comprehend, and all these great AI and machine learning based services where customers could essentially create their own similar functionality as Contact Lens, the overwhelming feedback we got from customers was, hey, this is great. I understand that AWS has all these awesome services, but I don't want to have to kind of take over and figure out how to build these things and stitch them together and manage all that. I just want all the greatness that comes out of doing that. So that's essentially what we did. We listened to our customers and we brought forward this capability in a really easy to use way where you literally just check a box in Amazon Connect and then you get all the benefits of this capability. And I'll show you that here later today.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I don't want to, I feel like I need a button that just like plays my voice recording when I say this, but when you say it does, you just want the value at the other end and you don't want to have to stitch it together yourself. Smells like undifferentiated heavy lifting to me. Is this
Exactly.
is this something that a lot of Connect customers were already, either A, asking for or B, trying to build themselves? Because I think that's sort of a recurring trend.
Yeah, I mean, what you'll see even is that last year we put together a solution where we demonstrated to customers how they could build something like this or similar to this themselves. So the need was definitely there. And there's also other products that do speech analytics and so forth in the contact center space. So this isn't necessarily a new capability that customers have been asking for. The new part about it is that you can get it directly within the Amazon Connect platform without having to create integrations and buy things from different third parties and so forth. So it's just really
Yeah,
easy to
and
consume.
Yeah. Can you break that example down a little bit further? So you said, customers gave us overwhelming feedback that they didn't want to stitch together these different AI services. Can you just elaborate on maybe just pick one use case there that they were managing themselves and that we're folding into Contact Lens now?
Yeah, so if you think about all the data that's stored in call center recordings, right? So as businesses have conversations with their customers, a lot of times those audio calls are recorded, and there's a tremendous amount of data that can be leveraged there, both from a training perspective, for agents, identifying, what the key issues might be that are happening in your contact center space. So businesses were either consuming third-party integrations that do speech analytics, or as we released other AI services from AWS, they were really excited about being able to use that power of AI and machine learning to go get the data out of things like call recordings. But unfortunately, they'd either have to go buy a third-party product and integrate it with their solution, or use other AWS services that are machine learning powered and create those
so
integrations
I'm going
themselves.
to jump in here on this one. Fans of the show will know I always geek out over the AI and ML topics here, and I talk a lot at events and conferences and such on the AI services. I think they're awesome. So we were smiling cheekily at the top of the broadcast about folks probably having known about your work before, because that very demo that I use all the time in the AI services for the AI services deck of stringing them all together is a contact center one. So even previous to Contact Lens and some of this other functionality, when you said we built it, you're being a little humble over there. It was a demo you built where basically in real time, or certain parts of it were in batch, but customer calls in, you can transcribe their text with Amazon Transcribe, you can translate it to a destination language with Amazon Translate, you can use Comprehend to be able to assess the sentiment on it. And I am sure that there is something else that I'm probably missing, maybe Polly to vocalize that text. But you speak from firsthand experience, having quite literally built that yourself. So it's even more than just customers building it, right? In-house at AWS, when we try to build these reference architectures and demos for customers, if we see pain points, I think that's enough motivation for us to go back to the drawing board and to start building some of these features in-house.
Yeah, absolutely. When we release services like Transcribe and Translate and Comprehend, we all get really excited about what customers and businesses can do with those services. So we always look for ways to kind of bring things together into a holistic solution. And it's really exciting to see that we can take customer feedback and then just simplify that even further, and then add even additional capability more than just if you were to stitch those services together. And that's really what Contact Lens is.
Cool. So we gave a brief overview at the top of the call about Connect. I don't know if we want to dive a little bit deeper into it, but I think it may be fruitful before we sort of get into the nuts and bolts of Contact Lens. So in Connect, you mentioned before that it's this omni-channel. It's everything you'd need in a call center. What is this like, sort of as like a developer, right? To use this, like, what are the entities and the foundational elements that I'm working with inside of Connect?
Yeah, totally. So Amazon Connect really was designed so that it's not so that you don't necessarily need a developer to get a lot out of Amazon Connect, which is really why we built things like integrating Poly directly. Lex is integrated automatically directly within Amazon Connect. But at the same time, we also understand that there's businesses out there that have really complex use cases and want to kind of think outside of the box and do really interesting things to solve their business problems. And for that, absolutely, a set of developers can do some really interesting things with Amazon Connect. For example, right within a contact flow within Amazon Connect, I can invoke a Lambda function. That Lambda function can go get data from a database or Salesforce or some other system, bring it back into the contact flow. And now I could use that data in real time. So I can play dynamic prompts. I can decide how I want to route this contact. More importantly, I can even add essentially metadata to the contact so that as it gets to the agent desktop or whatever the agent is interacting with can do really interesting things. If you then think about some of the additional capability in other AWS services, for example, like Kendra, I can actually now start integrating Kendra from a developer perspective on the agent desktop to do things like take that real-time transcription, feed it to Kendra, and bring back some really interesting suggestions for
Yeah, one
agents.
thing I actually forgot about, I mentioned Comprehend before in the demo, but when you talk about sort of conditional routing something like using comprehend to detect key entities, you could conditionally route calls about certain products without having to have this like 28-step phone tree. You can simply just ask the user to describe why they're calling and then conditionally route that based on transcribe and comprehend. So a pretty slick sort of combination there.
Yeah, and you can actually do that directly with Lex, right? So I can create a Lex chatbot, and I can create a really great conversational interface where I can ask you, what's the reason for your call today? I can understand the intents out of those utterances and either use that to create a fully self-service experience or use that to then decide how I want to route the contact.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some really good stuff. And I think this is an area I feel like that has seen very rapid innovation. Can you kind of just give us a sense of how far we've come in this industry for contact center support? Because I feel like this is just stuff that it just started popping up overnight everywhere.
Yeah, when we first released Amazon Connect, there definitely was this this momentum that was created around kind of reimagining your customer's experience, and really kind of creating better customer experiences in general. So when we launched Amazon Connect initially, we had Polly and Lex directly out of the box inside of Amazon Connect, and that was a thoughtful decision, right? The Amazon Connect service team could have went and said, hey, I'm going to build the same type of capability directly in Amazon Connect, or I can leverage other existing AWS services. And that's a common theme within AWS in general. The decision to leverage existing services allows us to innovate at a much faster pace. So now the Amazon Connect team can focus on creating the best value out of Amazon Connect, while the Poly team or the Lex team or Transcribe team is focusing on their specific services. And as their services continue to improve and iterate and mature, you just get that awesomeness directly within Amazon Connect. I'll give you an example. So Polly is one of those services that synthesizes text into speech, right? It's one of our AI services. Polly is automatically included within Amazon Connect. You don't really have to know anything about it. But recently, Polly just launched what's called the NTTS engine, so neural text to speech. Think of it as like the next gen way of synthesizing text into speech. What's really cool about that capability is it creates voices that are much more human-like. And one of the other innovations that they did was introduce something called speaking styles or voice styles. So now I have stuff like newscaster. So I can actually set a set of text and have it be read back in real time as if I was a newscaster. More importantly, for the contact center space, they just released something called conversational voice styles. So essentially what it does is, rather than reading in a monotone way, when you enable the conversational voice style, with machine learning and AI, it automatically understands where it should have inflections, pauses, and so forth. So it sounds a lot more human-like. Well, the neat thing about that is when Polly introduced that, if you're an Amazon Connect customer, you were just able to kind of gain those benefits directly within your contact center space. And that enables us to innovate at a much faster pace.
Speaking of being on top of other AWS services, any plans to integrate with Sumerian?
We don't tend to talk too many.
I think Rob and I are just worried we're going to be out of a job when Sumerian and Connect and all that comes together, and we don't have to host anymore. We just sit behind a keyboard, we type some responses.
Yeah. Get customer experience and our customer support.
No, but all jokes aside, it's really cool to see that when you invest in a service, this is something that I talk about with the AI services. You don't just invest in the model the day it launched; it will iteratively be improved. But when we think about some of the dog fooding that happens with the services at AWS, the sort of like, I wouldn't call them network effects, but the compounding effects are significant, right? So as a Connect customer, you get to tap into the benefits of all the advancements on each of those underlying AI service teams, and they're all bundled in automatically. You don't have to upgrade to a new version. They're typically just going to work out of the box without you needing to worry about them.
Yeah, and that's one of the really exciting things about our continuous deployment model is that there's no version of Amazon Connect. So it's not like, hey, I'm on version 1 or version 1.5. We're deploying all the time. So we're always iterating and improving our service. Again, like I said, with the example of Lex and Polly, you're automatically just benefiting from that.
So with Connect is almost a customer of these other services internally in a way, and so obviously that's a two-way street. Is feedback from what your customers are looking for, does that ever get passed on to the teams where you almost act like a customer in the same way they would externally and ask for certain features?
Yeah, 100%, and that's actually really exciting. It's exciting both for us as you know as people that kind of work with the Amazon Connect space, but it's really exciting for those service owners as well, right? They love the feedback. So our Amazon Connect customers, as they use Poly and Lex and some of these other capabilities, those other service teams, come to us and ask for that feedback directly from our customers because it's just another use case that probably when they first created that service couldn't have imagined that would have been a use case for their service, since things like Poly and Lex came before Amazon Connect. And that's super exciting.
Speaking of relying on all these other services, does that make the customer's bill really complicated?
No, that's actually the really cool thing about this is that from a customer perspective, when you subscribe for Amazon Connect, you pay for the connected minutes from an Amazon Connect perspective and the telecom minutes, right? So it's really just two line items. Now that we've added contact lens is an additional line item, but just for contact lens holistically, not for all the capabilities of contact lens, which again is pretty awesome. And you'll see why as we kind of go through and talk about the different capabilities of contact lens.
Wait a minute, I think I got you. So that means if I go and build all these different services and hook them together from scratch, then I can save myself money.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about, so there's when you look at things like Lex, for example, right? They're still paying for the Lex service itself, but things like, for example, Poly is just included natively directly within Amazon Connect. So the connected minute price that you're paying for includes the Poly service. With Lex, it's a hybrid. So with Lex, you'll get billed for the Lex usage because it is consumption based, but you don't have to worry about any of the integrations or how to make it all work together. You just select that chatbot from a drop down. For contact lens, even though it's powered by things like comprehend and transcribe and all these other capabilities, you just see the one line item for contact lens.
Love it. Simplified pricing, I think, is a huge distinguishing feature for me.
Yeah, and it's not just simplified. If you look at contact lens, right? If you were to combine all the different services needed to deliver something like contact lens, and you were to add all that consumption together, it would actually be more expensive than the per minute rate of just contact lens. So not only are you saving money if you were to kind of stitch these services together, but you're saving even more money because nobody has to maintain it or do all the operational aspects of that and troubleshoot things and worry about the pipelines between these different services. That's all done for you as a managed service directly by the Amazon Connect product in contact lens.
Well, I think what you said there is very important, and I want to play it back to you, make sure I heard it right. If I opt to not use Amazon Connect and I string together all these different AI and ML services to rebuild all that functionality, in addition to all the time that I spend building and maintaining that, I'm actually paying more just for the raw usage of the services.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that as we kind of continue to iterate and add this value inside of Amazon Connect, that not only are we adding value from a business and an operational perspective, but that we're also adding value from a financial perspective. Customers love the idea that they can save a lot of money by using Amazon Connect.
I mean, that's pretty mind-boggling to me, right? And for one main reason, and that's that a lot of the AI, well, I think all of the AI services, well, I don't want to say all, but I think nearly all of them, at least the ones we've spoken about today, are consumption based already. So a lot of the optimizations you're not doing are not just intelligently like turning on and off instances or some of these other sort of housekeeping things. They are quite literally saying, or the value proposition is quite literally, for the same amount of consumption, you are paying more because you have gone and internalized that. And I feel like you phrased it a little meekly, right? You were like, we want to deliver financial value. It's like, well, I don't think I'd ever say no to someone saying, I will give you this value for just less money, right? That's I think that's a no-brainer for everybody. So I know we just spent a lot of time sort of reiterating on that, but like, oftentimes this if I were to think about how folks would probably do this previous to contact lens, right? There's sort of the build it yourself route, but the trade-off of maybe having a little more customizability is dwarfed by the fact that you could save money by even stringing these services together, or you save money from the alternative by just using contact lens. Like that, it just becomes such an obvious choice to me.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually get rid of that customizability. So for example, you can still use things like custom language models and so forth to further tune the capability. But more importantly, we're kind of we're giving our customers a way to have their cake and eat it too. So with Contact Lens, you get this UI where you can actually consume all the insights and see the transcripts and the sentiment analysis and so forth. But we also know that businesses have different needs and they like thinking creatively about solving different problems. So not only are we going to give you a way to consume this data in the Amazon Connect application, we will also export a JSON file in your S3 bucket with all the raw data. So you get the transcripts, you get the timestamps, you get the comprehend data, you get essentially all of our analytics in a JSON file where we've done the undifferentiated heavy lifting. And now you could take that data and add onto it and do anything interesting that you might want to do, whether it's tying it to other business data you might have, whether it's giving it to your analysts and scientists and having them build their own machine learning model on top of that data. So you get both. You get the ease of use directly within the product, but you haven't lost on the flexibility.
Well, here I am. I'm a filthy liar posing false dichotomies here, but you know, so much exciting stuff here. I know we keep talking about, you know, the fact that you can use a single tool and it makes it much easier. Hopefully this is no surprise to you, but and I think many people in the audience would like to see a demo. Do you think that would be possible today, Yasser?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me do this. Let me kind of, I'll go over 2 slides really quickly, just maybe 2 minutes, and then I'll go right into the product and give you a tour. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
A tour. That's a new phrasing. I've never heard that one before. A cloud tour. We call them demos on this show, but you know, this is we're always trying to expand our horizons.
All right. So when we created Contact Lens, these are some of the challenges that were faced by contact center customers. So essentially, poor visibility of their customer care. So it was hard for businesses to understand the experiences that their customers are having in the contact center space. There's also things like compliance risk. So for example, if somebody, you know, saying their social security number or some sort of sensitive information, and do I need to be able to kind of redact that or deal with that? Or for example, are agents putting the right disclosures in place when they're talking to customers or greeting customers the right way and so forth. Another issue and challenge that businesses have is a timely discovery of emerging issues. So if you think about the idea that, you know, if you're talking to a customer and they're complaining about something and you have lots of customers maybe complaining about the same thing, in today's world, it might take days, weeks, or in some cases months before the right business analyst or the right person in that business understands that there's this trend or this issue. And by the time they react, either that issue is gone or it's no longer relevant or there's a more pressing issue. So the idea of being able to use machine learning to surface these issues either in real time or near real time is differentiating. And that's something that businesses have been looking for. And then the lack of real-time support for live calls. So think about the experience where you might be on the phone with an agent and you're having a poor experience, right? Either they're not solving your problem or they're, you know, name the issue. Rather than waiting until that customer has gotten off the phone and probably tweeted about this issue or put something on social media. What if you had the capability of surfacing these issues in real time so that supervisors can chime in on that conversation and help that agent deal with this problem before the customer disconnects and has a poor experience? And that's something that we're going to be bringing soon to Contact Lens as well. And then finally, I'll kind of go through quickly on these last 3 items. The disconnected ecosystem of product essentially is referencing the capability where if you want to do speech analytics today, a lot of times businesses will use integrations, so third-party tools to provide this capability. And then they have to worry about either licensing or how do they, you know, buy it? How do they integrate it within their contact center? So that disconnected, disjointed experience was also a challenge. And then I kind of already talked about the third-party tools. And then the transcription accuracy, this is huge, right? Because a lot of these insights come off of the transcription, right? So it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out, right? You need really good transcription to then be able to kind of derive and get all these other insights. And that's something that we're really good at, not just out of the box, but we also provide businesses a way where they can use custom language models or kind of, you know, custom vocabulary so that we can make our transcription more accurate for that specific business or their vertical or key things that they use in their business that might not be generic terms.
One thing I just wanted to say that I noticed here is, and I know this is Connect rather is different than a lot of AWS services for a lot of reasons. But when I think about the challenges that the customers face here and that you have on the slide, especially in the former half, it's not simply a technical challenge or simply a domain like a logic problem. It is the unique combination of the two. You know, again, you could have the best analysis in the world, but if you don't actually get the right transcription on the way in on that technical problem, you have no path to value. It's Connect really is marrying sort of an end-to-end solution that addresses these two quite different problem sets.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can really think of Connect as a SaaS-based application, right? It's no longer, it's not like a lot of the other AWS services that's infrastructure or something like that. You're really consuming an application, and it helps us kind of take care of the technical issues while giving you the business value and ways to solve these business problems, like you mentioned. So I'll quickly go into this next slide, which talks about what is in Contact Lens today and kind of what's coming, and then I'll go ahead and show you the product. So again, Contact Lens is a set of AI-powered, machine learning powered capability directly within the Amazon Connect service. And what that enables you to do, and what's added with Contact Lens, is an advanced search capability. So now I can say, show me all the calls where somebody has mentioned this keyword or this phrase. More importantly, I can say, show me the contacts where somebody's mentioned this keyword, but the customer specifically said it or the agent said it. I can even then get into detailed analytics and sentiment analysis and look for calls, for example, where the customer mentioned this phrase, but the sentiment of the call started poorly, but then ended at the call positively. So that helps me understand training opportunities or good examples of calls that I could then use to train other agents. One of the other really neat things is what we're calling the automated contact categorization. What that allows me to do is use a rule-based engine to build something like, hey, if these phrases happen or are said by either the customer or the agent in this part of the contact, then label it or tag it with this tag. So now I can drive consistency in how I'm dispositioning my calls or how I'm labeling my contacts, rather than relying on a human to say this call was about this, it was about that, and so forth. But it also lets me find things like compliance, where I can say, maybe I'm interested in understanding, did the agent greet the customer correctly? So I could say, okay, if you see these phrases in the first 30 seconds of the call mentioned by the agent, put this label on there and say, yep, the agent greeted this call correctly. Or the lack thereof. I can say if these phrases weren't said in the first 30 seconds, then label this contact. And we're going to continue iterating on the capability and different ways that you can create these categories. Now, that's more of like the known unknowns. So the things that I already know that are happening in my contact center that I want to look for. One of the things that I'm really excited about is theme detection. And the way you want to think about that is almost like the unknown unknowns. What are the things that are happening in my contact center that I didn't even know were happening? So I didn't even know to look for them. So one of the things coming soon to Contact Lens will be the ability to do that, essentially giving you theme detection, where we can kind of surface different thematic items across multiple contacts to let you know these are the things that are happening in your contact center across these different time ranges. So that's going to be super excited, and that's obviously powered by machine learning. And then the next thing that we're looking to release soon will be what we're calling Supervisor Assist, and that gets back to the idea of surfacing insights in real time. So that's going to be coming soon as well. And then finally, I talked about this earlier, but everything that we do tries to be open and flexible so that we can enable our customers and our partners to add additional value on top of these insights. And this is, again, different than a lot of other products in the market today. We're not interested in creating a walled garden where you have to come back to us to get your call recordings, your insights, and so forth. You paid for it. You should have the raw data so that you could then use it however you see fit. And that's something that we do with Contact Lens as well.
Yeah, I'd imagine us. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. I'm okay. There's so much here. I have so many questions, but I wonder if it would be better to just leave them after I see the demo.
All right, let's do it. Let's go through. Okay, so Can you see the screen here? Okay, cool. So this is the Amazon Connect portal. Essentially, this is like the application that you would go into as either an agent or contact center supervisor or what have you. The first thing you'll notice is this doesn't look like your normal AWS console, because it's not. There's actually a specific portal that we give access to so that you can consume the Amazon Connect service through this portal. And the reason for that is that we want it to be easy for agents or supervisors. They don't have to know anything about how the AWS console works and so forth. They log into this application directly. So let's kind of show a couple of things here. The first thing I want to show is how easy it is to enable this functionality.
So yeah, so just to quickly clarify, that also means that agents don't need an AWS account or an IAM account.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so you can integrate, we do SAML is the ideal way that customers do this integration. So they can log in directly with their corporate credentials into this application. All right. So what I'm going to show you now is essentially the idea that we have for contact flows. And contact flows is essentially a visual representation of the experience you want to provide to your customer. So when you call up and you talk, maybe you call into a help desk or a helpline or to order tickets or what have you, that entire experience can be designed in a contact flow editor. So what I'm going to do here really quickly is just start creating one and kind of show you some of the cool things you can do here, specifically around contact lens. Before I get to contact lens, I just want to show you something really quickly. So here I have this canvas, and it's as easy as dragging and dropping these blocks onto this canvas to start creating an experience. And I just connect them over like little, puzzle pieces. So we talked about Poly earlier and how easy we make it for you to do text to speech. This is it. So I drag a play prompt block. And then in this play prompt block, I say, I want to do text to speech. And I can say, hi, how can I help you? And then I click save. And that's it. This is as easy as it is for you to do text to speech in your contact center, fully powered by Poly. You don't have to know anything about Poly. You just put in text in a block, you hit save, and you're good to go. And then we make it also really easy for you to set different things for Poly. So for example, I can do something like set the voice. So here I can say, which voice do I want to read this back into using? So I can do things like English, and we have all these different languages that you can use to read these prompts back in. And we have even different voices per language, so you can kind of create your own persona. And then finally, one of the cool things about what Poly has done recently is created brand voices. Essentially what that is, it enables businesses to work with the Poly team and create a voice that is unique to their business. Nobody else can get that voice. So if you don't want to have one of these voices because you want to have a very brand unique voice, you can do that. And that becomes a voice that you could use in your contact center or for anything else that you might want to synthesize into voice. So that's really cool. But this presentation is not about Poly. So let me get to the contact center, the contact lens part. So I talked about how easy it is to enable all these analytics in a checkbox way. So it's as easy as dragging the set recording and analytics behavior block. And I select the settings over here. I have a radio dial for turning on call recording because today contact lens works off of the call recordings. I could say I want to record my agent and customer, and then it's just a checkbox. So here I check a box that says enable contact lens for speech analytics. This is the configuration, right? So I've just configured this contact flow to be enabled for contact lens. I don't know anything about transcribe. I don't know anything about all these other things that I would normally have to know if I were to build this from that perspective. Now with contact lens, you can actually process more than one type of language. So we've enabled a number of languages for contact lens, and we'll continue to add more as the service grows. But one of the really neat things about contact lens is not only are we doing transcription and giving you insights and so forth, we also allow you to redact data, again, with a checkbox. So I check this box, and then I select how I want to actually get this data. And you have the option of getting redacted transcripts and also having the unredacted transcripts, getting redacted audio in addition to the original audio. And what I mean by that is it's one thing to give you a transcript and then automatically identify things like PII data and redact it. But we don't stop there. We will also go to the original audio file, split it out, take out the sensitive information, replace it with white noise, and then give you that audio file so you can actually get a redacted audio file in addition to the original audio file. And the reason that we don't just kind of chop it out and stitch it together is we want to have both the original and the redacted audio file have the same length, so it's easy for you to find things and so forth. Another really cool thing about how we redact data here is that, unlike traditional redaction options, our redaction engine is powered by machine learning. So we've actually created a model and we've trained it on thousands of samples of PII data, so it can automatically and intelligently look and find things like social security numbers, credit card numbers, names, and so forth, without you having to kind of create a formula or regex or anything like that. And as we continue to add to that model and improve it, you'll just get that benefit as well. So that's essentially how you enable contact lens. All right. One of the other things I want to show really quickly is the rules engine that I talked about earlier. So here I can actually go in and I can say, I want to create a set of rules. So maybe I want to do something like understanding the context where the agent correctly introduced themselves or welcome the customer. So here I can say, show me for these key phrases or for these phrases, and it's easy for me to add more of these. So if the following words or phrases were mentioned or were not mentioned during the first, last, or entire part of a contact, and here I can define for how long to look for, in seconds, minutes, or hours. Hopefully you're not having hour-long conversations, but you never know. And for where the speaker is either the agent, the customer, or either. So I can create these rules and then automatically label these contacts. I can also create complex rules by adding multiple sets of phrases and kind of identifiers here. So you can get really, really, really fancy with this. Now, this is again more when you know what you're looking for. And then the next version of this will be things like theme detection. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit as well.
Sorry, I just wanted to,
all right,
like, I am still sort of trying to wrap my head around the concept that I can, in one button on the contact flow, enable this and then come in here and just have all of this routing. Like, I guess I'm just not used to working with services that are just this deeply integrated into the problem space that they're working with, right? It's like it's one thing to build a tool that is helping you give the building blocks, and then there's a lot of common ideas of what you could build with it. It's another thing to just like have a bunch of these buttons that I can, or these like multi-option choices that I can select and basically have what is an entire end-to-end application delivered and managed on my behalf. Like I guess I'm just still a little mind blown at that concept, because it's, I mean, you know, again, it's very different from other AWS services. And I'm just almost struggling to find other things that, like, if I were to go into the call center business tomorrow, right, I'd be like, well, Connect is just awesome, and Contact Lens just is mind-boggling. Sorry, you can continue. I know I'm derailing conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I've kind of ran into this excitement over the last couple of years, because you're right, it's different, right? This is different than a lot of the other AWS services. And what's really cool about that is it's driven by a customer's ask and desire for it to have something like this. And it's even forced us internally to figure out, how do we work together to do this? Because this isn't something that, you know, culturally we're used to doing at AWS. So it's awesome. It's driving change internally. It's delivering value to our customers. It's really an exciting time to kind of be in this space.
Yeah, sir. I'm especially enamored with the PII redaction feature.
All right, so let's get that going and show you guys how that works.
I'm just sitting here sweating, thinking about what an annoying problem that would be if I had to solve that myself. If I were sitting there looking at an S3 bucket with millions of audio files, and I have to write something to go in and redact that and replace PI with white noise. Oh my God, what an annoying problem.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. One of our customers actually did that. And it was a really clever solution where they took that audio file and they parsed it through, you know, a Lambda function, and they used, you know, some application to identify the agent would click a button on their agent desktop when they heard, you know, sensitive information. They would use those timestamps to go back and cut the file up. So absolutely, this is something that businesses we're trying to really figure out how to do, and now we're just making it that much easier for you. All right. So let me kind of show you how you get at this data. So today in Amazon Connect, I can click on Contact Search. And this is our search UI for kind of understanding and finding different contacts within Amazon Connect. So what I'll do is I'll go back to, you know, I know that there's a contact here around this time that I'll use as an example. So I'm going to create a little search query here. And what I'm going to say is that I'm going to look for contacts where somebody mentioned late ride. So we have a demo in our environment that's like a ride service demo. You can call in and so forth. I won't belabor that. But anyway, so here I can say, okay, match all these words. And I'm only interested in contacts where the customer mentioned that there was a late ride, that they called in to complain about a late ride. But more importantly, I want to look for calls where the sentiment started. Actually, let me tell you a little bit more about this. So for our sentiment analysis, we've kind of normalized these scores instead of percentages to give you from a -5 to a +5. So if it's -5, it's really negative. If it's +5, it's really positive, and everything in between. So here what I'm saying is, show me a contact where it started less than 0 and ended more than 0. So I'm looking for calls that started negatively and ended positively, where the customer also mentioned late ride. So let's go ahead and do a search here. All right, so I have 2 contacts. And what you'll see is I can click on one of these contacts. And what you'll notice here is that this is kind of the details of this contact. So here I see all sorts of interesting information about the contact. I can see a graphical representation of the sentiment over time. So I could see it started really poorly. So this person was obviously upset. Hopefully the agent did the right thing and they ended on a positive note. And then I can also see things like neutral, positive, and negative customer sentiment and how much of this call was negative or positive or neutral. But then I can also see things like non-talk time. So I could see, you know, how much time did the agent spend talking? How much time did the customer spend talking? And how much time was there just silence? And we know that these are indicators of customer experiences. So if there's a really long amount of silence, you know, you might figure out, okay, maybe this agent needs to be trained. Maybe it's taking them a while to look up something or what have you. I think my video just froze. Okay, cool. All right. Then there's the area here where you can see categories. So this is where I could see that, back to that rules engine that I was talking about. So these are the labels that we automatically labeled this contact with. So I could see that there was agent conclusion, agent intro, and oh, by the way, there was an actual ride issue on this contact, which makes sense because I'm looking for a late ride. And then we created this new graphical interface for showing customers the actual audio. And this is new with Contact Lens. So this was not there before. It was a much simpler audio player. This is really exciting because here, right off the bat, just by looking at this audio player, I can see where there's negative sentiment, it'll be red. Where there's positive sentiment, it'll be green. I can also see the amplitude of the call. So I can see where maybe somebody was talking loud and I can click here. So for example, if I click right here, it will automatically take me to that area of the transcript. So it automatically scrolls down and you can see that this caller was clearly upset and they were obviously speaking loud here. And this is obviously also the transcript. So let's see what this sounds like. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Things happen. You guys run a business and I'm the customer, right? If you're gonna be late, just tell me. I can't just show up to a pitch when I want. That's not how it works. Does this happen often? Do I need to use a different service?
So here you can see the customer was obviously not in a great position. They were a little bit frustrated. And I was able to identify that by looking at the negative sentiment and the amplitude. But since you were asking about redaction, let's get to an area where there's some sensitive data here. So if I scroll down, you'll see right here where it says, so I see your ride was picked up from an address that's been automatically redacted. So this is automatically happening with machine learning. And I can actually click right here and get to that area of the audio just by clicking on this timestamp. And if I were to play this back, you could see that not only did we redact the transcript, but we also redacted the audio. Let's take a listen.
Right. So I see your 11:35 a.m. pickup from this morning. Is that the trip?
So you can see here, not only are we giving businesses the redaction in the transcript, we've also automatically taken that sensitive information out of the audio file. Now, what's neat about this is that, again, you get both if you want. So based on my security and my privileges inside of Amazon Connect, I can decide who sees and hears the redacted information versus the original information. So that's kind of cool. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of talk about here really quickly is you see how this turn right here is underlined by the system? Well, this is kind of the beginnings of where we're getting to from a theme detection perspective. So this is using machine learning to automatically identify what the customer said that lets the business understand what the issue is that they're reporting. So out of all this text, right, out of all these back and forths between the customer and the agent, our machine learning model was able to identify that this is likely the area where the customer, where the issue is mentioned or stated by the customer. So that's kind of neat. So that issue detection is there, and this will also be exported in that JSON file. Now, as we get closer to our theme detection, we're going to be able to use this type of capability to then now surface up additional themes and so forth across many contacts.
Wait, you have to explain a little bit more here. This is incredible. How does this work? How do you highlight, or how do you determine what is the approximate issue?
Yeah, so this is where I was talking about earlier, where we're using things like transcribe and comprehend and so forth, but we've also added our own science on top of that to be able to provide this functionality, right? So this isn't something that you can get today from an internal AWS service. This is where, not only did we just stitch services together, we're innovating on top of these services to add this additional value. I can't really go into detail into how we do this, but it's machine learning magic.
Like, we can make some assumptions about, like, let's assume the theme has to be present in the first few back and forths on the call, but that's clearly not always the case, right? For innumerable reasons. But like, we're sort of jumping from just processing the language and getting, let's say like first order explicit properties like the sentiment of a word. And now Contact Lens and Connect is able to sort of put all of these pieces together and make these like meta analyses, or like draw these like larger conclusions in like the natural language understanding space. Like, I know you said like the science team, but it is quite literally, machine learning science work being done. This is more than just, stitching together other existing fundamental services. This is novel, research for this domain.
No, it's really exciting. So the teams have done, just some amazing work. I get the benefit of just kind of showing off their work, right? But it's very cool. So I want to show one more piece, and then I'll kind of end the demo there. This is what I meant by you get this UI, right, where I can actually start ingesting and understanding and interacting with this data, right? But more importantly, if you have an interesting use case or you want to get at this actual raw data to do something else interesting, or maybe you want to take all these transcripts and so forth and merge it with other data, or maybe you want to have your science team, just like ours, added additional value, take this data and add even additional value on top of that. We'll give you the entire raw, all the data in a JSON file that's well organized and has a nice schema for you to actually get all this raw data. So here I can see those labels I talked about are right here. And I could tell you kind of, where we derived that from or where the match details are. We'll also see things like sentiment. So I get all the sentiment by both agent and customer. You'll see things like interruptions, which you actually don't even see in the UI today. So we're actually giving you even more data directly within this file. So if there are interruptions back and forth between the customer and the agent, you'll see that. You'll see things like talk speed. So how many average words per minute did the agent say? Average words per minute did the customer say? And this is pretty cool because I talk really fast, for example. If I was an agent, I'd be horrible because I shouldn't be talking this fast to a customer. So you can look and say, you know what, this guy's talking way too fast, and you could do training opportunities and so forth to get them to talk slower or what have you. Same thing with talk time, but more importantly, you get all the transcript that I showed you earlier in the UI directly in a programmatic way that you can consume this data. So here I could see that, the transcript, I could see that it's redacted. I can also see the timestamps of where the redaction was. So if I wanted to kind of, reconstruct this, I could, especially since I have access to the audio file. So so like I said, it's all right here in this JSON file. So I think this is really cool to give you both worlds, right? I can consume it as an easy application. Maybe I'm a small business and I'm excited to have this capability where small businesses have really never had access to this capability before. Or maybe I'm a really complex environment where I want to just grab this data and do something else interesting with it. And we do have customers doing that.
I have so much to say here. Like, I guess most recently, because going on the structure of the JSON, the data modeling that you just showed us, like we opened the segment with discussing that Connect is not just a tool for developers. As we saw here, you can be an agent, you can be a supervisor, you can have most roles in a contact center or a call center and not need to ever touch a line of code. And I would imagine a service like that, even if you proved me wrong, you said, hey, you don't have to trade off customizability, you can get access to the underlying data too. But what you just showed us there was that, like, it's not just that the in-console service and the data sort of increment in with parity with one another. If one area, I mean, I guess the data would have to come first, but if the data modeling and what we can make available to customers sort of jumps ahead of the console experience, you're not going to wait for the console to catch up. You're going to make that data available to customers directly. And like, that is, I would have never guessed that, right? That is such a cool sort of novelty that, you will not wait until you can release the feature. You will release the data and let people build as quickly as possible on top of it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you saw here, right? Is, we didn't get to the part of the UI where we were able to build in things like interruptions or talk speed, but because the data is there, why not expose that directly, in that JSON file, and we'll eventually get that in the UI as well.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is, man, I need to play with this as soon as I can. This is so cool. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am. There's already, I know Nick knows what I'm doing, but there's all sorts of silly ideas popping around in my head now.
We have a little side bet going on over which of the two hosts interrupts each other more, and now we're gonna rig all the audio up to contact lens to
with proven. We'll settle that bet. With proven, we'll settle that bet.
But I know UIs can make tasks easier. That's something, there are better UIs, there are worse UIs. Just the level of effectiveness that the contact lens UI enables people to have, where if you were to build out the flows to access some of that data, right? I could transcribe the text, right? I could identify the key entities with comprehend. I could do A and B and C all the way down to Z individual features that AWS has services that can do much of that. But the ability to access all that data at a glance and do these comparisons so quickly on like the time scale as sort of the key indexing element, like it just enables people to be, I know this is the joke of like 10x developers, but like this I largely see as like, 10x contact center agents, 10x, like people trying to analyze this data. Like it just enables a level of efficiency that would be otherwise superhuman, right? Like that, at least me being naive to the contact center world, that's the way I perceive this.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, and that's why earlier, this is more than just stitching together AWS services, right? Like that's just where it starts. But as you can see, there's a lot of value that we've added on top of those services. But to your point, that's absolutely correct, right? Today, businesses will have quality analysts or what have you that have to pick some percentage of calls to go and manually look at, right? Well, now I can use machine learning and things like contact lens to take the same cycles that as a quality analyst would have invested, but point them in the right direction, get them to look at calls that actually would drive value or the right contacts that they should be looking at.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that occurs to me is, we've talked about a lot of features, and I know that Connect itself is already way beyond just stitching together AWS services, right? It's already got all these different, like you mentioned, the omni-channel support. It's got chat. It's got voice. It's got redirecting. It's got the interface you showed us where you can drag and drop the voice prompts and all that stuff. It just occurs to me that already, I mean, we're talking about a vast set of scenarios already covered by Connect itself. And then what we're talking about on top of that with this feature announcement is the really the bells and whistles, right? The cherry on top of the sentiment analysis, some of the AI, the demo that you showed us there, where we can find that issue of, like, in the transcript, pinpoint exactly where we think the customer issue was articulated. That to me is just, wow, that's incredible.
It's pretty cool, and we don't plan on stopping here.
That's a great segue into another question. I feel almost greedy asking you this, given how many features you've talked about, and especially new ones. But for anyone who's maybe already a Connect customer or folks that maybe get started, is there anything they can look forward to in the coming months with Connect that we can talk about publicly here?
I kind of covered that when I talked about team detection and the supervisor support. That's about as much as I can talk about for those features, but those by themselves are going to be super differentiated and awesome. Now, the other interesting thing is that that's going to just come at the same price point of contact lens. So as we continue to iterate, we're not looking to nickel and dime our customers, right? We're looking to just continue to add additional value for within Amazon Connect and that portfolio in general.
So with a service like this, you mentioned you've been working with customers. Do you have any customer stories that you can share? Any customer references of folks using Connect out in the wild?
Yeah, we have lots of customers using Amazon Connect. So we have thousands of customers that are using Amazon Connect today. And you can go to our website and see all of our referenceable customers. We have customers like Intuit, customers like Capital One, Accolade. We have lots of customers that are using a product. I don't have the referenceable ones memorized, so I got to be careful not to mention a customer that's not referenceable. But we do have a website where you can actually go and see testimonials and customer references right on our website.
Yeah, and with customers like that, at the top of the broadcast, Rob and I were talking a little bit about the value of this show and making it more broadly known, some of the things that we launch and why we are excited about them. And I think when we talk about a product and features like this with Contact Lens and Connect, it is, even if you don't run a contact center yourself or you're looking to implement this feature, odds are you probably are maybe a customer of one of those businesses, and you may have jumped on a call, and that entire flow may have been managed and analyzed through something like Contact Lens and Connect, and you would have never known it, right? So it's really interesting here how these launches can affect us even if we don't use them ourselves. So very exciting. So for folks that are looking to get started, you mentioned sort of the different type of console folks would use with Connect, but are there any resources we could point the audience to get started with Contact Lens?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, right on our website, so aws.amazon.com/connect. You can actually see all of the different capabilities, and you can sign up and try the service. Amazon Connect actually has a free tier, so you can get started and for free. I think you get like 60 minutes a month for the first year. So you can actually start creating interesting experiences and playing around with it for free.
So Rob and I can run this entire guest segment each month through Contact Lens for free. That's great to know. Awesome. We will get a link to any of those documents thrown in chat, so for anyone watching at home, they can follow up through that. But without we're at almost an hour on this demo, but I feel like we could go for so much longer. There's just so much to show off and Connect. Contact Lens, I think Rob put it very aptly, is very much the cherry on top, but it's also the whipped cream. It's the sprinkles. It's a lot more than that. So Yasser, thank you so much for taking the time and for joining us on the show today. And when we come out with some of those new features that you hinted at before, hopefully we can have you back on the show.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love that. This was my first time on the show and really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Yasser. Incredible work from you and the team.
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, we'll be back in just a moment with another demo. So hang tight. We'll see you in just a second.